Right, good afternoon, everyone. And I'd like to welcome you back to our Wednesday webinars. I know that we have been away from you for the past month or so. A lot of circumstances beyond my control, but we are happy to be back. And I know that a lot of you had taken exams with ABC exams the past couple of months and the various tutorials. So I'd like to congratulate those of you who were successful. I know some of you did extremely well. There's some of you who didn't make the grade, but we'll keep working at it. And we hope these types of seminars or webinars would help you to improve. Not just in taking exams, but to help you with your practice. So we are pleased this afternoon to have with us Mr. Paul Bishop, who is the President and CEO of the Association of Boards of Certification, the ABC, who are the ones who provide the providers of our certification exams, and for which CAWASA is the sole agents in the Caribbean region. So we are very happy this afternoon to have Mr. Bishop with us, and he will give us a presentation on what I termed influencing exam outcomes. And so that he will try to discuss areas such as what defines a successful, competent operator, what factors influence the chances of an operator's success at the ABC exams, how can operators help or mentor others to pass the exams, and generally some of the techniques in preparing for exams, and perhaps he will give you a little more about the whole certification process and the ABC in and of itself. So I'd like to, again, thank you, Paul, and welcome you. And the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ignatius. I really appreciate that. Let me start by, Ignatius, if people have questions as I go, please feel free to pop up in the chat. I'll try to keep my eye open for that, or my eyes open for that. But if any questions come up, please feel free to interrupt. This is your forum. Exams are very much a, they're somewhat of a necessary evil. I don't know if I want to say that per se, but they are one of those things that we use to determine competence. And, so as part of the certification process, it is something you must go through. This webinar, let me share with you, I will share an article afterwards that will kind of encapsulate everything I'm going to talk about today that Tom Healy, our Vice President, wrote regarding this, and many of you may have spoken with him. I know Ignatius has. I'm really happy that I'm pleased to report, and I'm sure Ignatius says that you are moving toward newer standardized exams. That is really going to align well with the trainings you've been receiving from Valerie Jenkinson and Mike Goslin and the crews, just from the our Canadian counterparts, and so the fact that CAWASA is moving to those exams, I think is really going to change things. It's going to do a couple of things at first. I will share with you. There can be a precipitous drop in exam pass rates just because it's new material, but the need to know is aligned to it. The trainings you're doing are aligned to it. AWW, WEF, and Sacramento State, all the most recent additions of their resource material that you use to study, all aligns to it. So the really good news is this is something you can do. This is something you can achieve. I don't want you to be scared about taking an exam. There is a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of apprehension, and rightly so. Your exams, these exams are a big deal. They're determining promotions. They're determining, work situations and whether or not you can work or not. So there's a little pressure on them. And it's not unusual for even experienced people to have anxiety when it comes to taking an exam. In fact, I think it's the statistics around 30% of all respondents talk about having test anxiety. And whether you realize it or not, you might have it. And it manifests itself in different ways, from lack of sleep to other things that actually affect your cognitive ability and the ability to recall and then process during the exam. So today, kind of what I wanted to kind of go through, and again, if I get off target or if I'm not covering stuff that really means something to you, please ask questions, because sometimes we'll find that if you've got that question, as we all know, someone else does, and it might do more to answer today, what you came to or what you really want to know about today. So let me just kind of go back to our exams and a little bit of the basics. The standardized exam is built by operators for operators. It is based on the material that I shared with you today, the AWWF standard methods for labs, Sacramento. So, and every item is referenced. So we don't have trick items. There aren't things on there that are meant to, are so obscure you can't find them. Everything is referenced. So hopefully that brings a little peace of mind, knowing that the people who built this are trying, they're just like you. They sit in the same seat, just like you. And they've been picked, or they chose the items here to overall assess the competence of which, minimum competence with which to do the job and pass this exam. So when we talk about that, we are talking about minimum competence. It isn't, our exams set a bar, but it's not a bar that's meant to be a hurdle, more of an assessment. So please go into it knowing. Know that when I took over 13 years ago and we wanted to change things, the board wanted to change things, I came at this somewhat holistically, looking at the exams more as a way of just overall assessment rather than does this person know X, Y, and Z. So we do take a very holistic approach to the exams and the way they assess you as an operator. I think overall that's good. Something that Agnesha said, and I can't say enough, is that when you are studying, when you are taking practice exams or studying all of the things that you should be doing, it is also meant to make you better at your position. Yes, there are certain things, there are 730 items that at any given time we have identified, that your peers have identified. Think about that, 730 items that you must know to do your job. And you might, if you look at those 730 items and you're grade 3 or 4, at some point you've gone, yep. Maybe 1 or 2, maybe not so much. But at those higher levels, you're probably going, yep, all 730. And yet we have 100 questions to determine competence. So our people are trying to find the best items, the best tasks, the best things to cover to do an overall assessment. I say all this not to scare you, but to just give you some background and context for the exam, for the questions. And so when you're studying, when you're taking practice exams, it is meant that it's meant really to help you be a better operator, hopefully. And that is ultimately the goal. I don't want you looking at it as, I've got to study to take the test. I want to study because I want to be better at my job. And this combined, the knowledge I'm going to gain from this reading and this studying, along with the day-to-day experience, and then take this in, is going to make me a better operator. Again, the process of certification is a journey. The certification process itself is a point in time. You take your exam, that's a certain day. You receive your certificate, and maybe you move up, that's a certain day. But really, the time in between that, where you are studying, where is really what differentiates operators from, and the profession of being an operator, from something that is just what I would consider a blue collar or trade. Truly, I believe that the operators are professionals, and I mean that always. I mean, I don't want to diminish what has been done, but I think sometimes there's the view that, you know, is this really a profession? Trust me when I say what you do is a profession. It is a STEM job. I think all of you would agree, you know, very much with all of the math and the labs and the biology and all those things. And that, you know, and that you really are, it is a STEM job. But even more importantly, you have public health and the environmental safety aspects that truly make this not somewhat, but make it a profession. So I think when you look at that, when you think of EMTs or nurses or emergency, fire, and police, they all are required to take continuing education and take exams to ensure that they are on the latest of their industry. Somewhat like what we require of you as you move through a grade 1 to a grade 4 level. But also we also require continuing education for the most part, because the field is always changing. And so when you're preparing for exams, when you're preparing for these types of things, look at it as something that overall can benefit you, not just professionally, but personally in what you're doing, and to take pride in it. We are very proud of the people that work in this field. We're very proud of the people that get these exams together. So anyway, why do you worry? Why are we so apprehensive about these exams? Well, as I mentioned, they're a big deal. These are not to be taken lightly. Another scary statistic, but it's one that kind of, I hope, sinks in for you. Your best shot at passing an exam is your first time. Let me just repeat that quickly. Your best and most opportune time to take an exam and to pass it is the very first time. Studies have shown, data shows that that people sometimes who take the exam thinking, oh, if I go in, I'm going to learn, and then I'll come back and know better. It's not the case. More often than not, that first take is your best take. That doesn't mean people don't get better, but more often than not, there is a high correlation of failure on the first one to fail one or two more times before operators finally, or before anyone actually realizes the importance of the exam. So please understand when I say that, when you are studying for your exams, it is truly important to prepare, to have your operators be, to be in a study group, to have all the materials you need, in so much as, to understand if it's a water exam, that you have your AWWA or CAWASA, your manuals, your study guides, and that you take the time to really study them, not for the exam purposes per se, but also to understand as to how they affect your daily work and how you might utilize the information you gain from that material in your daily work to be a better operator. We have found that those operators who utilize the study material as just that tend to do much better on the exam and tend to have fewer retakes. And so it's critical that you really take that first time seriously. It's critical as well that you practice. That when given an opportunity to take a practice exam, that you do it, you time yourself so that you're understanding what it means to have a time constraint. Now, our exams, you're given, I think with our standardized exams, you're given 3 hours. I will tell you, a standard 100 question exam normally has 2 hours. But we've heard over the years our operators don't like the time crunch, so we've been able to push it to 3. Not exactly an industry best practice, but we have found that it has helped alleviate a little bit of the anxiety for some of our more seasoned operators. But so understand that, given 3 hours, 100 questions, and you're given 180 minutes, to answer 100 questions, when normally it's 120 minutes for 100 questions. That gives you an idea. It's expected about a question a minute, give or take. So, but understand that we've increased the time so that you shouldn't feel rushed. We have provided materials with need to know that gives you a breakdown of what's important within that field. There is corresponding industry material that will help you. You have got great instructors in the Valeries and in the Ignatius and Mike Goslin and a number of the other people I know that you have. Those are just the ones I've had the most contact with recently. You have great resources there to ask questions. In fact, it's because of those people that we have been able to move with Ignatius and CAWASA to use these new exams, because they found that there was a disparity in some of the training materials and some of the exams and stuff, and we made some changes. Ignatius and CAWASA moved fast to make some changes so that everything was in alignment. I applaud the CAWASA leadership for doing that. But all of that will make for your future exams probably more alignment with that, and hopefully a better experience than maybe what you were having. I know some of you were having a lot of exam questions that had rules and regulations on that. And on our new exams, we've eliminated all of that. To me, they're not pertinent in your area, but not pertinent in a number of jurisdictions. So we try to eliminate all jurisdictional related questions on our exam. Our new exams have metric along with standard measurement. So those are just a few of the things that we've done to try to make these new exams better, and we're in the process of actually developing new ones as we go forward. So I'm just going to keep going, but feel free if anyone has any questions to raise a hand or pop up. I'm just going to keep rattling on. But so one of the things to know when preparing for an exam is, as I've stated, you kind of have your basics now. You know resource materials. You know you need to study. But what you need to also know is don't cram. Practice. Take time. Prepare. Set a schedule, as you do with anything. Set a schedule for taking practice exams, for reading chapters, for taking chapter exams, using study materials or study guides. I know there's some of that can be costly. Hopefully what people can do, or what utilities can do, is kind of go in on that and share. The rules and regulations. We've removed all rules and regulations from our exams moving forward. On the exams we've started that process about 2 years ago. So we have tried to remove all rules and regulations. So stuff related to EPA, some of that stuff we've tried to eliminate because it didn't apply to our Canadian brethren, or some of it to you all. So it just wasn't fair for you to have to take an exam that you would never use those, some of those guiding principles. That isn't to say that a rule or regulation that might be, case in point, OSHA might have has rules and regulations on putting ladders in ditches, and how, the depth, and how many per feet per trench, per distance, per every 6 feet. I think you're supposed to have 2, but there might be something, so something like that you might find that might be a rule or regulation, but is also a standard in the industry. That is something, hey, whether it's a rule or regulation, that is industry standard, that rules that people have adopted, governments have adopted, we still might have on the exam because it is a best practice. So keep that in mind. But we are avoiding any references to federal law, state, provincial, or regulation in our new exams. So hopefully that clarifies that. So getting back to when practicing sure that you are taking, you really are taking time to study. Cramming is just not an effective way. One, you aren't going to retain it. You are not going to have, oh, sorry, you're getting a lot of static. My apologies. Not sure. There's a lawnmower outside, so I apologize. Maybe I'll get a little closer and see if I can mitigate that a little bit. We have some lawn mowing going on. My apologies. So in regards to making sure that you do not cram, that you are taking time to construct a learning process for you, whether it's a chapter a day, a topic a day. It is important to create a structure with which you are learning, not unlike when you were in school, but to create an opportunity for you to learn and then to apply it. Whether you're applying it through taking practice exams or study guides or being in a study group. There is something to be said for also being in a study group and working with your peers on it. But it is shown statistically, cramming doesn't work. It actually creates more issues for you to have cognitive recall. And again, to hold the information for future use. Because again, the exam is meant to assess what you know and if you know how to apply what you know and to be competent in that. It is not meant to be, an end be all. It determines competence, but not competency. And there is a difference between those. And that competence says, hey, you have a minimal amount of requirement. Now, you may or may not be good at your job, which is competency, but you have the minimal competence of which education and skill and experience to do the job. So I want you to go into this with the approach that our exams are meant to test you holistically on being an operator, that they are done by operators for operators, so they are not meant to be there's no tricks. The questions are meant to be tricks. They're meant to be a barrier, but more they're meant to be again, an assessment and an opportunity for you to, as you go move through the certification process, to understand what you do and don't know with regards to your profession. I know that when we were building this 7 years ago, the new exams and the professional operator, I was going through my own certification. Like you, as an association executive, we have our own certification. It's called the CAE, Certified Association Exec. And I will share with you, I was going through that as we were in my first 2 years with AVCA, and I was talking with operators and going, why don't operators have the CAE? And a couple of our operators, some who've been down there doing some training or speaking, said to me, Paul, that's a good question. We don't, we've tried and started. And I'm like, here I am, an association exec. My job is important, but not half as important as the work you all do. And but I'm like, I get a national certification. How come they don't? And I wanted our exams and our professional operator certification to be based on something that would meet or exceed all standards. So, and that's really kind of a neat thing going forward that I actually haven't had a chance to even touch base with Ignatius on, but I'm going to let Ignatius know now. So he may or may not like me after this, but here's a really cool thing that we're looking to do is that with these new exams and these new offerings, that when you pass these exams, you've actually passed the toughest part of going through the professional operator certification. And we're going to work with CAWASA to offer, to see if we can offer the professional operator along with your CAWASA certification, because I really want to have an opportunity for you to be recognized, not only for your certification with CAWASA, but then to also achieve, hopefully, the PO, the professional operator certification that we offer when you do it through when you take those exams and take the newer standardized exams that we have, then those are what the new PO or what the PO is based on. So that's really kind of a cool thing that we can offer, is almost like a 2-for-1 in terms of certification. I'm going to work on the details with Denise just so he can kind of announce that, and we can have a program hopefully to help everyone. I think it'd be wonderful. We're opportunity for us to maybe at the next CAWASA meeting do a pinning in October at ACE and WEF, and sometimes we've traveled to other places. We do what's called a PO pinning, and we walk people across. At WEF, we're going to walk 9 people across the stage, pin them, give them their certificate, get a goodie bag full of PO stuff, and but it's an opportunity to be recognized by your peers for attaining something that was completely voluntary, but something that says, look, I care about my profession. I'm going to take, I've taken the hardest exams. I've taken the necessary coursework and demonstrated the necessary proficiency, both in my experience and in my experience in education and through passing exam, to attain not only my provincial or state or jurisdictional certification, but also the professional operator certification. And we're really excited about that. So it's something that we'll work with the team at CAWASA to do, and to see. We're unveiling a whole new portal in October. It's a great opportunity for you to put all of your CEUs and any certificates you have on an online database and make online applications. So it's really kind of an interesting thing. So back to the exam. So you've gotten to this point. You're listening to me. You're like, okay, Paul, didn't cram. I studied my materials. My buddies and I, we got together. We studied. I feel pretty good about it. But it's the day of. I'm nervous. 2 hours. Actually, to answer your question, Ezekiel, so the professional certification exam will be a separate exam from the usual? No, not anymore. This is what I apologize if I wasn't clear on that. The new standardized exams that you are taking are the same exams that the professional operator is based off of. So it's really kind of a unique opportunity, because now you don't have to take, if you take the new professional exam starting now, or starting when those are being offered through CAWASA, you will have taken that exam, and then you'll be able to apply for, once you've taken that exam, passed it, for say your certification program, you will be able to use that passing score to apply for the PO. I also think reciprocal, if you apply for the PO and pass our standardized exam, I think Ignatius and CAWASA would probably recognize that as well. Or if someone brings that from another jurisdiction, we will talk with them about recognizing it, since it is the same exam that you will be taking. So they are now the same exam. The exams you'll be taking moving forward for water, wastewater, collection, distribution, I believe. I could be wrong. I don't want to get ahead of myself, Ignatius, but I know that the exams, especially I think with wastewater and stuff, will be the ones that ABC is offering to our POs. So so the fact that you're taking those is awesome. It means you're taking probably the hardest industry exams in a way, but you're also taking the ones that are most fair and the most recent ones. So in my opinion, they are truly the best exams we've had, and yet we're working to put new ones out in the next year or two that are even better. Exam development is always a work in progress. You aim for perfection, and the old saying, you aim for the moon and hit the stars, I guess. That's kind of what I feel like with exams, but my apologies. So the guy's right up there with the lawnmower. So as I was saying, you've passed the exam, or you've not passed the exam, you've done the study, you have the materials, you're getting there, you've taken study guides. That's all the things you need to do truly to be ready. And then it's day of, and you're nervous. There's a lot of things that can be done. And let me share with you what we've learned through our years. Some of it anecdotal, some is scientifically based, but it's honestly the best of what I think you can do is to, one, when you're studying, take good notes. Use the materials that we've talked about with WEF, AWW, Sacramento State. Use those as those are the ones that we really do reference quite a bit. One, when you are nearing the test date, read, study, but don't cram. Take time to reflect on what you're doing, take practice exams, and start the week before with getting good rest and taking the time to truly understand the subject matter. I know you're like, Paul, I've got wife, kids, I've got ball games, been there, done that, have all that as well. But this is important. And then remember that statistic that I said to you. You need to really aim to pass it on this first one. I want you to be successful the first time because the anxiety, the tension, everything, the pressure builds on every subsequent examination retake. So really your first one is your best one. Take time in the days prepared leading up to rest your brain, sleep, get plenty of sleep, not just the day of. A lot of people talk about getting rest the night before. I believe in the 2 or 3 nights before the day of your exam, make sure you get good rest. It's really important. I don't know how any of you are, but I know, sometimes you can't sleep at night and the next day you're okay, but it's the following day that really knocks you out. Keep that in mind, that the 2 or 3 days prior to taking the exam, you want to get good rest. The morning of, the afternoon, before a morning exam or an afternoon exam, eat well, high protein, not fats. Keep your mind fresh. Fats will kind of slow you down, not be good. Don't skip breakfast or lunch or anything like that, because that also, actually, that has been shown to actually decrease your cognitive ability and to slow your response time and ability to analyze things. Excuse me, talking nonstop. And I just got off a plane, so I'm a little dehydrated. My apologies. And then when you go in relaxed. Go in prepared and relaxed. What does that mean? Well, it means go in knowing you've done what you can. That when you're walking in, you're like, okay, I have not left anything to chance. If you can say that, that's good. You've had your breakfast, you've had your coffee, you're feeling good, you're alert. You sit down, you prepare, take a deep breath, take a couple of deep breaths. And as you're taking the exam, continue to do that. Relax yourself. I'm going to send an article to Ignatius to share with everyone, but they talk about the 5-5-7 method. 5, and that is like every 5 questions or so, take a breath, hold for 5 seconds, exhale for 7 seconds. No one's going to really notice you doing it, but what it's going to do if you do that 2 or 3 times is going to stimulate your nervous system. It's going to kind of waken you up. It's going to tell you, it's telling your system you're doing something different, and it's going to put you on a more calm path in terms of being able to go forward with the exam. Just taking a deep breath, it's releasing that stress. The other thing people talk about is tensing your muscles up and then releasing them. That's another thing. I think that's called the PRM method of clenching clenching your different muscle groups and then feeling that release. You could do yoga as well, but truthfully, these are just small techniques, small things that if you've done the practice exams, you've taken the time, these will help you release some of that anxiety and go into this process better prepared. Again, just like your job, the more you prepare, the more you study, the better you're going to do an exam, the better you are at your job. I think all of you probably would agree that before you go out or before you do anything, if you're prepared for any, anything you might have, and I know, many of you in your trucks or your cars, you have a go bag, you might have your tools, or you have all that stuff to prepare. This is the same way. So for your exam, make sure you have the materials, make sure you have the study guides and those things, but make sure you also have the right frame of mind that you're going into this and you need to do it. How does the new format affect the need to know criteria? It doesn't. The need to know criteria affected the new format reverse. So when we came up with a new criteria 3 or 4 years ago, actually maybe 5 or 6 because it's time for a new one, that actually dictated what's on the new exams. So, and with that, we recognize the need for the metric. We recognize the need to remove statutory language and jurisdictional related language. And there's one other thing. We put metric and standard next to each other. And I think there might be one other thing. The new need to know, or the need to know, which is also, as many of you know, stipulates how many questions there are in each category, how many math questions to prepare for. Going forward in our new ones, we're going to look at some of the cognitive side of things and how we can remove even more subjectivity. Our exams are pretty objective, but we still realize there may be some subjectivity in there. We're doing our best to incorporate all the best practices for certification exams. So bottom line, bottom line is go in, find what works best for you. Again, use study groups, use the Valeries, the Mikes, the Ignatius to understand when you're having an issue or a complex area. Work with them to understand it. You're always free to call here if there's something that's going on. We'll try to point you to the right material or the right area. But I think most importantly is if you take advantage of those things that are offered to you with regards to studying and general knowledge, awareness of what's out there, you're going to find that these exams are doable, and they are again meant to be an assessment, not a hurdle. And when you read, I think you find that when you can read through this material, oftentimes that's when people find themselves having the most success, because again, everything is referenced, everything is cited within that material I've stated. It's just taken out and used in an exam question that might be different than the way you would use it in your everyday, but it is then trying to take, I want you to be able to take the experiences you have and apply it to those questions and how you would answer it. That is, those are basically the things we're talking about. It's just come prepared, come relaxed, and do take good, just take good steps to ensure that when you are getting ready for an exam, that you've done everything you can, so that when you're walking into that session, you can honestly say, I've done the best I can today. And if I don't pass, and if you don't pass, it's not the end of the world. We have the great thing about the exams that you're going is that we have the exam report that comes after, and you can see what areas you struggled in, and you can spend more time focusing on those areas and what you can do. So if you don't pass, it's not the end of the world. It's often, how would you rate the use of study groups as it relates to success in exam? Actually, when I did my thing, I did a study group for my CAE. I will tell you, I think study groups and flashcards sometimes are the best thing. And I'm actually trying to work on some flashcards for people, but I will share why. Flashcards make you put onto, just that a flash that you need to recall, helps you maybe figure out, okay, what is X, Y, and Z? How do I apply that? That's kind of the cool thing with flashcards. It's putting you under pressure, similar to an exam, to respond coherently. Study groups, I think, are ideal. They give you an opportunity to, as a group, look at the material, kind of dissect what is important, what's not, but also to understand different concepts. All of us come in with our own biases and with our own experience. And in a study group, you're able to kind of bounce that off of. And again, you're going to remember better having a conversation with one of your colleagues or two or three of your colleagues about a certain process. And is this, wow, I didn't know this about this, when you exchange ideas about it, and have a talk about it and or look at the different, gosh, I didn't know that was a key piece of that. When you're in study groups, if you have an issue with a math question or a process question and one of your colleagues doesn't, I have twin daughters, case in point. I have twin daughters who just graduated this year. They went off to college. They were in the same advanced European studies in high school. One of them sailed through. Second, my other one, they're twins. Fraternal, but they're still twins. Literally, they have, they've gone through school with the same grades, the same everything. They're smart, a lot smarter than their dad. But they were pretty smart girls, but one was really struggling. And it's just funny because all through high school, their years, they get to 10th, 11th grade, and we're starting to see this distinguishing. But together, as twins, the one twin who was doing well, Abby, shared with Ella, hey, this is what I've done. Ella was looking at the whole process completely differently. Like she was studying materials or the notes from her class, and actually she realized what Abby was doing was reading and then doing different process of determining the importance of what was from the notes and what was in the reading material and what was in the exams. And sure enough, Ella was able to adapt that to help her. It's my long way of saying, when in study groups, you learn from others and you learn best practices. And I think from them, you also will learn just also maybe some things that you didn't know. It's always better. There's strength in sharing that commonality and that bond with each other. And concepts, I think, stick with you more when you have that. Plus, you can create with each other the learning gnomes and those, things that help you understand or remember certain key functions. Well, it is 4:50, and Ignatius, I think I've talked nonstop for 45 minutes.
Yes, you
have. Hopefully this helped. But those are, what I really hope you take away from this is one, don't stress. Don't let that be the guiding. We want you to succeed. We want you to pass. Our goal in developing these exams is to make you a better operator and to assess what you know. So please know, we don't do this. We don't do it for the money. We don't do this for anything other than trying to make sure you're the best operator you can be, and that when you go out there, you know what you need to know to do the job. And more importantly, you know what you need to know when all crap hits the fan. You actually have the skill set and the knowledge to do what wasn't in the book, to fix or, to handle the things that we could never test on. Because if you have these basic skills, you're going to be able to handle the stuff that isn't in the manual. And that ultimately is what we want, is for you to be the best operator you can be. And to that end, we support the CAWASA team. Man, I'll tell you what, their ability to move on this was great. The ability to recognize, hey, we want to do something different. I applaud Ignatius and the team there. And the people you have training you are some of the best in the industry. Listen to them, listen to their best practices. I know at the end of the day, we want to come down there and I want to celebrate. I want to hopefully, have a bunch of you, maybe we were able to offer some really cool things at the PO and come down and have a pinning ceremony down there. Or I'll fly a few of you up to the WEF or ACE and and have you come up here and do that. So we've been known to do that a couple of times too.
Yeah, that sounds like a great plan. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Paul. I think that was a really good presentation by you this afternoon. In fact, my takeaway is I'm all excited about the PO, the Professional Operator Certification. I remember when I attended the ABC conference in Savannah 2 years ago. You know, I learned a lot more about the PO. And so now that we have switched to the new exam format, I think it has given us that bit of leverage. So I'm pleased that a lot of our regulars are present. And I know people like Nicole and Shannon and Ezekiel will be going for that. So I think that's the role model.
I want, if you have a whole system or plan that goes through it, let me know. We will celebrate. I don't know if CAWASA has top ops or ops challenge people, but if you get everyone on that team goes through the PO, I will, I'll help underwrite some of the costs. I will help put stuff on shirts and really celebrate with you. And Nicole, I agree wholeheartedly. I'm sorry, I didn't know who was here. I agree wholeheartedly. Those rules and regulations were really tough, and I'm glad we got rid of them because they weren't fair. And yeah.
I'm really pleased that we were able to sort that out because it was a sore point for us over the years.
And
we really appreciate how swiftly you were able to sort this out for us. I would like to, well, I guess, you know, in time we will get some time to discuss this behind the scenes.
Yes.
How to operationalize the PO, and then we can inform our constituents about it.
Yep.
So I'm really excited by this because I think it's a good opportunity to be able to recognize the profession, as it were.
I agree.
And for the utilities themselves to be able to see where the operators are and that it's a sort of international recognition. So that's really good. It would have been ideal, but we don't have our usual operators conference this year because of the COVID restrictions, etc. in person. But I'm sure in due course we should be able to organize maybe some event, you know, to celebrate our operators.
Hey, you let me know. I'm actually going to get the BVI in November. BVI in November for my 20th anniversary. So I'm going to be in the neighborhood, but not quite. But please know that we have always just had a great relationship with CAWASA. We believe strongly in what you do. You are in an area that, man, you know, you face challenges that a lot of people don't in a lot of different ways. So we would love to have the opportunity to celebrate that with you, to shout it from the rooftops. I love to see this. I love Nicole's response to the yes to the PO because trust me, I want to really shout that from the rooftops and to celebrate. And whether it's here on the mainland or whether it's in the islands at one of your conferences, we would do it. We have actually partnered with a new communication company. So we're really going to do our best in the coming couple of years to really promote the PO, but more importantly, promote the profession of remote operators and individual operators. So, you know, that's one thing we want. If you got a story, and every one of you does, we want to share it. And that's great. Really important.
Yeah, and the other thing that we did, and I think you saw that bit, we had the interview with a couple of our operators. I think it was Nicole and Ezekiel and Shannon, and that went very well. We hope to continue those sorts of interviews and podcasts at CAWASA so that our operators can know what is taking place in the various territories and across our jurisdictions.
I agree wholeheartedly. Well, look for in October, like I said, we're going to be pinning 9 people in October. We'll probably there will be some clips on that at the WEF conference. If anyone has happened to come to WEF, let us know. We'd love to see you. But please know that is something that we would love to take on the road. And next year when you get together, let me know, because I have a feeling we can help you throw a pretty good celebration for all the professional.
That's highly appreciated.
We will do it.
I have my friend Mr. Gill, Erwin Gill, who is one of our partners doing a lot of training in Trinidad. He's on the program there right now, and I think that would be another incentive for his cohort of students in Trinidad. So that's all.
I am sitting in the I'm putting in the chat. Haley Van Ness is our certification person. Her desk is right next to me. There's her email. If you're interested, just email her and say, hey, Paul told me to email you. We have this new certification database that goes live in October. So we're really excited about that. Yeah, there's some really new things and neat things going on in the program. Thank you, Ignatius. I congratulate you and all the people here, and just the program in general. You guys have really done a lot to raise the level of professionalism, of education, of training of the operators in that area. It's not easy to do in any area, but you all have been able to do that, and I applaud you for those efforts. It is truly something that I think deserves to be acknowledged and recognized.
Right. So thank you again very much. Valerie's just joining us now. Welcome, Valerie. She was starting another webinar.
Yeah.
So we'd like to thank you immensely for just jumping off a flight and joining us immediately.
No, that's okay. Well, let me know. Hey, Valerie.
Hi, Valerie. We're just about to sign off, but we will make time for you. Good to see you.
So much. I made a joke at the beginning of my presentation, because when I got there at 11:45, as I told them, there was nobody there, and the restaurant said, no, we don't have a meeting here today. And so and then finally some people turned up, and they'd just made up to see something. And so when I started my presentation, I said, I feel like Rudy Giuliani, because we were having this luncheon, was at the Seasons Hotel in the park. And I said, I feel like Rudy Giuliani, who went to the wrong Four Seasons. But I was in the right place, but they started very late. So my apologies for being so late. Paul, I will listen to your words of wisdom on the recording that Ignatius did.
All right. Well, I appreciate thanks, Valerie. And thanks again for what you've done for bringing awareness and helping us be aware of things. Again, I will, if anyone, you've got my P Bishop at, if you have any questions for me, I'll put mine here as well, but don't hesitate to reach out to me. Again, Haley for the certification, but if you've got questions, if you've got concerns, we do listen. Those are things, we work with our partners, with CAWASA and everyone, because at the end of the day, we're trying to do this for you guys. And if we're not, we need to know about it. So please let me know if we're falling through, things are falling through the cracks. But also, if you're happy with things, that's great. As I've seen here, I really appreciate the kind words today. And I appreciate the interest in the PO. I look forward to continuing to serve it.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. Have a good evening.
Take care.
Thank you, Valerie, for joining, and all our operators who are on board this evening. Yeah. I'm Ignatius Jean from CAWASA signing off, and see you sometime soon. Valerie may give me another presenter for next week. Thank you, Valerie.
Okay, stay on the line a minute, Ignatius, then.
No, just let me sign off the recording.
Yeah.